Thank you. Yeah, we have this topic today: small repeats, big consequences. Um, we have we write these thoughts for the day in classroom boards. Practice makes the man perfect. Practice is repetition. um, Tapas is what we used to call abhyas, is what we used to call it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And unfortunately, we have mistaken it to repeat a definition, memorize a definition. And that repetition or abhyas is restricted to only school, especially for children who are growing up. But when I think about it, any major decisions I have made is not because at that point of time I was a different person. Who I became a person at that point was repeated continuously by the decisions, by the patterns that I followed: failure, success, anything, any turning points. If you can go back and analyze it, it was because I was under fear, I was under pressure, I was under um, appreciation, whatever it is. And that was not at that point of time. It was repeated. There could be a major life incident, and people can tell me, "No, Shubha, you are a wonderful person, you have done such a great job, this and that." But yet, I would not believe anybody, because there is a pattern that's going on within me, a thought that has become my belief, right? A reaction that may have become my temperament, a habit that I have formed that could define my destiny. So these are simple small repeats, typically like conditioned, because as a child I don't have my ability to discriminate what I need to practice, what I should not. That comes only after 14, 15 years of age. But until then, I'm just imitating my children, I mean my environment, imitating the parents, the teachers. So small repeats are very, very important, because they do create big consequences. Small walking practice every day will eventually lead me to be an avid athlete or nature lover. I had a friend who was, well, I mean, she grew up in a foresty area, so she was very much in tune with nature, very much health conscious. She still goes marathons and all of that. But her husband was not the same kind. I mean, he was more like sit at home and eat good food. And both of them had arguments all the time. He could never understand her, she could never understand him. Eventually, it led to divorce. And that's why these small repeats, understanding that who am I at this point of time, is because of so many repetitions that I have done in my past. And when you read up on neuroscience, neuroplasticity, it also talks about all the neurons that fire together, wire together. There is that neural path that gets formed. There's myelination that gets stronger, so that habit repeated again and again, thought, idea, practice, whatever it is, repeated again and again, it becomes a strong path, a strong belief system, becomes automatic. I would not even know that I'm saying something, I'm doing something. I mean, if it is good, bad, both, right? So both freedom comes from there, bondage also comes from there. We get into this pattern of, just once more kind of a thing, just once more I'll skip my class, just once more. I got angry only once more in the last 15 days. I smoked only one cigarette a day. I used to do 20 a day. It's better, but still, I'm giving in. And many of the times this happens because we are fragmented. My thought is going at X speed. My body is much, much, much slower than my thought. I think I need to get to Bangalore now, but my body, the physical aspects, physical laws of this planet Earth will require me, even if I start right now, it would require me a minimum of 6 hours to get to Bangalore. So, I need to understand that I am fragmented from within at different levels. And my goal is to align myself. When I'm aligning, that also becomes a practice. Journaling becomes a habit, and eventually, um, I don't have to journal. My thoughts become clear and I can take action. But initially, I need to be writing it out until it becomes a pattern. That's why they say you can sharpen the brain. You can begin using the front part of the brain that is more into decision making, into intuitive thinking, getting intuitive insights, rather than being stuck in the back part of my brain, which is limbic system, where there is fear that's dominating, where there is escape, fear, flight, freeze, all those kind of reactions coming from, which are mostly day to day automatic reactions. Now I need to do these small repetitions to move from that limbic brain to come out to be able to use my forebrain, or they call it prefrontal cortex. And that is going to happen only when I have these small repetitive practices, which makes my thought, my action aligned through feelings. That is integration, opposite of fragmentation. That is when the big consequences could be leading me towards my growth, rather than deciding something at random and getting stuck in life, right? So somewhere any I need to look at this pattern, that the big consequences are not because of who I am at that point of time, or it's not like a magical appearance, my magical decision that I take that works out really good. No, there has been some consistent, repetitive work that has gone prior to that. And when the consequence is bad, it becomes difficult, to undo, especially when we grow up. That is why we need to develop that practice of repetition. We have this concept of rhythm, repetition, and reverence. We definitely need to repeat. I repeat every day the natural actions, right? Brushing my teeth, taking shower, eating meals. Those are all repetitive. I cannot eat for 10 days and say I'm fine, I'll be happy with no eating for next 10 days. Then I need to do whatever it is rhythmically, sleeping, eating, speech, the way I talk, the way I present, the way I invite people, the way I think, and the way I feel. Thinking, willing, feeling, all three have to be rhythmic in nature. And my effort is to begin small, pick up one thing, and keep repeating it. And you will see a big shift. Even if you begin with quietening silence for 2 minutes as soon as you wake up, and every single day do it. And then you'll be able to maintain silence instead of just reacting when something big comes at you. Right? So, any growth is because I have done some rhythms in repetitive pattern. When I say growth, it is growth in alignment with the purpose of my life, towards my destiny. Either ways I may be growing, but then I'm not internally aligned with that kind of growth sometimes. I may get a good degree, I may get a good job, I may buy all the luxuries, I may be settled well, but still I feel some void in between. Maybe I've lost a relationship. Maybe I don't have as good of a health. Something failed. I don't feel complete and whole despite having everything to the outside world. Right. So I need to look at these small repetitions, like a short prayer, gratitude. for the food I have, gratitude for the health I have, gratitude for things I have. Practice silence. I don't have to respond to everything all the time. Listen. Practice truthfulness. We are so tempted to make up excuses. Because I don't want to feel obnoxious, I don't want to feel rejected. There are a lot of fears also. So, if I skip a fitness class today, I'll make up an excuse saying, oh, somebody showed up today, so that's why I couldn't come. Reality was I didn't feel like going, and I don't want to admit it. So, try identifying when you have this urge to deviate a little bit from truth. Tell the truth. And nothing happens. All anything that could happen is if your child is observing you, even for your own sake, you feel clean, you feel clear. Don't have to make excuses. Sometimes restraint repeated. I don't jump. I know one of my relatives, she was going through certain phase and she wanted to not eat certain things. And India, how it is, there are so many events and people are pushing you to eat it. And she's like, nope, 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 I'm sorry, nope. They said, take one small piece. Nope. It sounded a little awkward for people, but people still kept forcing. Somebody else would come and say, hey, have a little bit. Nothing is going to happen. But restraint in a nice way. And also my presence, being present is so important for children and for myself. Come back to being present. I don't have to do anything. Presence doesn't mean that I need to be talking, cooking, cleaning, taking care. No, just to be there 100% fully present. That's all it is. And that, being present, those are small practices, but then huge consequence for the child to say, oh, I can go back to my parent. They'll quietly listen to it, maybe give me a solution. Many a time, just sounding out that I will get solutions myself. That's a big consequence. So I need to build trust to these small repetitions of keeping up my promises, remembering somebody's birthday, somebody's anniversary, somebody needed something, somebody liked something, responding when appropriate. Just go back and scan yesterday, only one day. How many times did I avoid? How many times did I remember but just ignored? How many times I reacted instead of responding? Did I apologize when I was at fault? Did I stay through the completion of something with somebody who needed that support? So this is something consistently doing. That's repetitions, right? So look at that, healthy repetitions. It's not just mechanical repetitions. People say affirmations work, right? But affirmations, just looking at something, thinking at something, and just repeating as a parrot is not going to work. They say put your feelings in it, put your it's like as though you are gasping for that breath of air when your head is submerged in water. You got to be intense about it, wanting that particular thing in a particular way. Then your body chemistry changes. Try it. You say something and they say repeat it a minimum 108 times, right? So by the time you have repeated it with attention again and again and again, somewhere you say, I just should get up and do now. Why should I just sit and repeat it? And you just do it and you get the results. Repetition, right? So the intensity increases with repetition, whether it is positive thinking that will uplift me or being jealous of somebody, angry with somebody. You keep thinking, and that's all you get into the hole. You cannot think of anything good about anybody at all, including yourself at one point of time, when I keep thinking of the negative qualities. So somewhere I need to ask myself, what kind of thoughts am I nurturing in me? Is it helping me? What patterns are repeating in me? What is it that I'm becoming? That is important. Thank you.